Okay, so for today's video, I don't actually have a video to show everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about something that you are familiar with. So you will be our primary source.
Whew.
And today, we're going to be talking about something that is sweeping the nation, particularly Los Angeles and California, which is ethical non-monogamy. So for those who don't know, can you please explain what exactly is ethical non-monogamy?
Sure, absolutely. To the best of my ability, I'm certainly not a scholar by any means,
Okay.
but sure. In essence, it's just a relationship or space where there's open communication about engaging with more than one partner. And
Engage with more than one partner, but while you have a primary partner, because that's like more like polygamy, right?
So there's polyamory. So polygamy, yeah. There's polygamy, of course, then there's polyamory, which is considered a bit separate because it's more of a lifestyle. Again, there are kind of sub definitions of the kinds of polyamory you can engage in, but ethical non-monogamy, as I understand it, is a bit less of an identity, I guess, whereas poly is more of a concerted lifestyle choice.
I just realized I didn't even ask you if you're comfortable while talking about this stuff on camera.
I mean, we're already here.
I just want to have my clear conscience. So when the mob comes to your house, when the mob of people come to the house, you heathen,
Hey.
you monster. I won't be like, listen, I asked him.
I was just in a row.
Yeah, because this is like new, man. This is, especially what's interesting is that what's interesting about this right now is the fact that we're seeing in my opinion, a regression or a reversion back to traditional conservative relationships, right? Trad-cons, if you will. How people are now being like, it's, the man is the breadwinner and the woman plays her role. She's the childbearer and she raises the children and she's the nurturer and he's the leader of the household and all that. So we're going there's this big push to get back to that nuclear family, traditional 1950s aesthetic of what a relationship is, especially in Trump's America.
Well, certainly there I get it, because I feel like, I don't know, just to say that's the thing that's almost conversely opposite is that there is very much an opening up and a push towards people looking at non-traditional relationships and being much more open and receptive to the idea of that. And that's
because we're in LA though. We're in California. Okay. We have to be clear that we're in California, and I think people are obviously a lot more liberal here. But I'm saying that both on the internet and what I've been hearing in red states, which, dear Lord, if you look at the map now, it feels like
most states apparently. Surprise!
We're like, we were fooled. This whole time we thought we were safe. But just on our little edge on the world over here. But so there's been this, and that's why there's and again, I don't know how much you follow what's been happening with the manosphere and the red pill movement. The manosphere being that this space for men, where men have reclaimed what it means to be a man again. Where alpha men, alpha males are listen, this is what it means to be male. Don't be a beta. You could be a sigma, you could be alpha. This is about men going back and reclaiming and being proud again to be a man. Because for a while, because of feminism, I guess men were ashamed to be men.
Yeah.
And will you get shamed for having archaic, rigid gender roles that most of us grew up with? Of course. Women don't want to be pushed back into you're back into the kitchen and you shouldn't get an education and you should just wait until you have a man who tells you everything you need to know about life. Some people want that, but there's been a movement as of late to have men kind of take charge again and go back to being like I said, providers and all that. And hearing about ethical non-monogamy, I think a lot of people are excited at first because they think it just means, oh, you're a guy and you get to just go out. But the way it works is the wicked part of this, the insidious part, the sinful part is that the women also have the same openness on their end, right?
Here's the thing. I think it calls for a certain level of emotional maturity and ability to communicate because, yes, I think some might think easily, that means I could just go do what I want and it's all good. And it's well, actually, I mean, it means that you need to have a willingness to allow not only yourself to be able to, be interested by other people, but your partner has the very same, choices that they can make if there's someone else that they are interested in and want to pursue cultivating a relationship with. And I think for many men, there's call it jealousy, if you will, call it. There's a sense of ownership that often comes in relationship. That goes both ways, but certainly when in a lot of men's minds, when we think the ultimate sin is like, oh, somebody else is doing my girl, somebody else is hitting my chick,
and he's doing it better than me,
and
bigger than me,
look,
lasts longer than me, and she likes it more with him.
See what I say. Look, those are all of the things. Because if you want to get it, those are all the things you've got to be very self-aware. You've got to be monitoring your own mind and not allowing things like that, which are, insecurities and fears and things like that to rule
That's
your
not
thoughts
insecurity.
and your behavior.
That's just my boundaries. The boundary that I set up is I don't want there ever to be a man who's better than me. Is that not? Can you respect my boundary?
I'm not insecure. I'm just wildly afraid that there's a man out there who's better a piece of my lady than me.
Like, I'm just
That's
saying.
all.
I'm just looking out for her because he doesn't hold her to the same regard. Blah blah blah. Look. Now, granted, if you feel like that and you're not a caricature person, sure.
Much respect. Yes.
I think what I respect the most about what you're doing is the fact that it's about communication. Mm-hmm. Like, there are no assumptions made that, well, this person is just gonna know this, or I just assume that. You guys communicate, right? Like, you talk about things. The person, I'm not saying it's not like a transactional thing where you guys sit down and you're like, all right, here's my menu of things that I'm going to tolerate.
But see, it's also a thing where folks decide how they want to go about doing it. Because there aren't, hard and fast rules if it has to be one way or the other. And, within the context of different relationships, some people want to know more information than other people. Some people may want to be very explicitly aware of well, what do you do? What is it? And some are more like, well, I understand that it's something that may be occurring and I'm comfortable with that knowledge and I don't necessarily need the play-by-play. Okay. So I think, again, it really just comes down to being able to have an emotionally mature kind of conversation with the person that you're dealing with to be able to get an understanding of it. And I think, not that I'm against monogamy at all, because I think that it works. But I think when we look at just objectively some of, not just the numbers as far as the how marriages actually work and don't, success and failure rates and whatnot, but also the levels of deception that exist in monogamous relationships, it's clearly there's something about this that is not exactly suiting a fair amount of people, both men and women. And I think
if you don't talk about it,
you don't have to worry about it. It's
you don't talk about it. When you talk about it, you bring it into existence.
The idea of that one person is supposed to embody all of your desires, all of your interests, and share yours, and be able to do all and fulfill all of your needs when it comes to an intimate relationship can be a lot for any single individual. Right. And I think that we don't allow space for that understanding. When we, cultivate and come to the age of understanding relationships, it's always, no, my one person is going to be it. It's going to be all the things I need them to be. And it's that can be tough. That can be tough for a lot of us. And so I think whether it's ethical non-monogamy or, whatever it is that you find, I think being able to have a certain level of just honesty about what your real desires are, and understanding that again, the traditional the single family unit is something that is relatively new in our modern era. That's not how we evolved to exist as human beings. It's not how we used to exist within the group structures that we had. And so considering it to be the ultimate pinnacle of how we relate to one another may require some revision.
I will even admit that monogamy is my preferred relationship style. That's just for me. That's my preferences. Those are my boundaries. No, but that's just the thing. Yeah, thank you. No. That's my preference, right? But I'm not threatened by somebody who wants to be in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. I'm not threatened by somebody who wants to be in a polyamorous relationship. Polygamy is interesting because I feel like that one is never one that the other people willingly partake in. I feel like there's a level of manipulation in polygamy because it's always, anytime I see one person benefiting more than everybody else is, then I'm always like, is everyone aware of what's happening? Or is everyone just going along with this because of things like religion or customs or traditions or social pressures? You know what I mean? Like, what is the rule structure behind polygamy. But polyamory, if you guys want to just be like, hey, I love free love, all openness, and everyone is okay and everyone feels like they are willing participants in this, then I'm all in support of that. I don't think my monogamous relationship is threatened by that because I'm free to pursue my monogamous relationship while other people. But I feel like, especially in America and online, dear Lord, if you ever see people even want to talk about these things, the comments, the vitriol that people have for that.
How dare you be different?
This is the end of America. You're ruining. This is a sin. This is evil. To the women, they're always like, "Oh, your dad must be proud," or blah blah. And it's just like there's such a. But that attack it always comes from this fear. Where I'm like, what are you afraid of? You think they're gonna like kick your house down and be like, you and your monogamous wife take this other girlfriend now and maintain 2 relationships? It's like, but I don't want it, but you gotta. You know? It's like, what? Yeah, it's like, no one's gonna force you to. So, like, if that's not for you, it's not for you. But I think the conversation needs to be had because I think for a lot of people who are engaging in monogamous relationships and are cheating and things like that, maybe they would benefit or be more comfortable in a situation where it's like, hey, yeah, you're maybe cheating because you're afraid to tell your partner that you love them, but you also want to pursue other people romantically or physically, whatever. And there's this fear or there's this stigma against that. Yeah. But now there's more alternatives and more people are talking about it and people are trying to like get rid of the stigma and have it be something that, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it as a group, as a society, see that, is this harmful? You know, it may be. I don't know. I don't think it is. I think I'm like 99% sure it's not harmful. But I'm going to reserve that 1%.
Sure,
maybe. There could be an argument that could be made for why it's harmful to society. But again, I only think that's if the whole society was doing it. This is probably like such a fraction of the game.
I think it's, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure it's not, comparatively speaking, it's not something that's hugely significant. I would not even 15%. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. Traditional relationships are not.
It's not going anywhere. It's been very well inoculated.
It's beaten into society
for sure. Yeah. But that's why it's so hard. That's why people I think defend it so vigorously that it becomes part of their identity. And I find even if people are in an unhappy relationship, even if you come and talk about relationships, they're like, no, we're great. Don't you dare talk about this troubled union over here. And it's like,
I was gonna leave her, but now I feel like I have to stay to prove my point.
Exactly. I'm dug into this thing, and it's like it's okay. Like we can
I also think that this is something like the older you get, the more I think you'll want to have the option. Because I'm 40 now, and now I feel like being 40 now I'm kind of like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know if the traditional monogamous relationship is even gonna be for me, and even if it is, there's a whole nother element that I'm into now, which is like, what do you call that? Blended families, where it's like, hey, maybe I'll be dating somebody who has 2 kids already, who already has a relationship. And I know, like in the red pill community, it's like, oh, you don't want to get with a single mother, blah blah blah. But it's like, you get older and you realize you're like, that's not as big of a deal as we all thought it was. You know, it sounds like every time people complain about single mothers, it sounds like when people were talking about virginity. About how important it was, like this thing, and once you experience it, you're like, oh, this is not that big of a deal as everyone made it out to be. So, shout out to all the single mothers and single fathers who are still
parents out there making it happen,
dating, and
love is out there for you too. You're very well deserving of it.
You are very.
Never let anybody tell you different.
Never let them. And with that, that's another video topic I want to talk about. Is about dating. Like dating now in your 40s or dating outside of like maybe people who've already been married once and now what does dating
we're definitely in that time where those who took that marriage train hopped off and are now coming back around again being like, let me see what this single life is about and doing so I think with different parameters and in a different perspective based off what they've gone through. And I've found there are a lot of folks who are more open to just bringing it back to the ethical non-monogamy poly thing, who have gone down that monogamy marriage road and were like, it didn't work out for various reasons, and are now like, well, let me be open to a different way of going about this, because clearly this didn't necessarily serve. So
and also the last point I will say is it's not a lifetime choice, right?
No.
You could
I could very well be like, look, I end up switching up and deciding, you know what, I'm going to be with this person and that's it, and I'm good. Yeah. It's not a thing where, again, it's not like an identity thing where I'm firmly always going to be.
This is the party you're in now.
Right, exactly.
You can't go and vote in the other way.
No takebacks.
We jump you into the gang of non-monogamy, and you're going to stay in this gang until you die.
Once you get sexed in.
Once you've tasted multiple partners, you can't go back to being monogamous. So, well, there you go, guys. What's a dating site, a popular site? What's the Field?
Oh, Field? Yeah, it's a look. Free,
we're not sponsored by them, but listen, free promo.
If you are interested in
is it Field or Field?
F-E-E-L-D.
F-E-E-L-D.
Yeah, it's a wide world of all kinds of. Look, if you want to learn some things you didn't know about what people are doing, I guess really at the frontier of relationships, that's the place. I did not know. I did not realize how wide and varied and deep the pool of possibilities really goes. So,
well, maybe look, depending on how many questions we get on this, maybe we'll do a follow-up video because I'm sure people have questions. And we did a lot of talking about a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure if they ever want to go back specific, because I'm like, there's other things I even wanted to ask you about it that I'm like for example, like what are do you have a girlfriend and then you guys are non-monogamous together, or is it just like what is the terminology?
So there are different ways in which it goes. There are like hierarchical relationships where, let's say you have somebody who is your primary partner and then you have a secondary or tertiary perhaps. It's like
your bottom bitch. Yeah. That's your bottom bitch.
Look, that does exist. I don't necessarily look at it that way. I think it's about I don't necessarily kind of rank it in that kind of sense at all. But there are those who do, and they have certain preferences or things go to their primary partner, and then there are folks who are like what they call either relationship anarchists or non-hierarchical, where it's like they are actively against any kind of hierarchy whatsoever and just engage with the folks that they engage with, and
we'll save it for next video. This whole labyrinth of love that you got going on, if there's a need for a follow-up, I'm down to do a follow-up.
Indeed.